I confronted my husband for hiding the fact that he has another child. I met my husband 6 years ago and we got married 2 years ago. We have 2 kids together, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Our relationship has been pretty amazing all these years, and I was never given reasons to question him ever. We even trust each other with our phones. It's not like we are searching each other's phones to see if somebody's cheating, but for example, if he's in another room and someone calls or texts him and his phone is next to me, he has to check who it is and what the text says. So a few days ago, I was sitting on the couch, my husband was doing the dishes, and he got a text. He told me to check who it is, and it was a plain number with no contact name, and the message said, "I want to introduce you to my boyfriend this week. I'm sure you'll love him. I love you and miss you and can't wait to see you." I didn't even know what to think. I had no idea who it was at first, and I thought they had the wrong number. I didn't pay much attention, and I told my husband it was an unknown number and probably a mistake. As I said, I had no reason not to trust him. A couple days pass, and as I was getting ready for work, another text comes and says, "So X and I will be waiting for you at Y restaurant on Saturday. Got a reservation at 7 p.m. in X name. See you then, love you." It was the same number. That's when I realized it's not an accident, so I confronted my husband about it. At first he was insisting it's an accident, but after a lengthy argument we had, he ended up admitting that he got a second SIM card, which he always takes out when he's around me, and he forgot to take it out, and that's why he got these messages while I was present. The other thing I found out was that the person who was texting him was his 17-year-old daughter, who I was unaware of. Basically, at 16, he got a classmate of his pregnant, and they haven't spoken in years. He never knew if she indeed gave birth or gave up the baby for adoption. Nothing. He found out of his daughter's existence a bit before I gave birth to my 3-year-old. He hid it from me for all this time because he was afraid of my reaction and that I might not be as accepting. I confronted him about the fact that he hid it from me, and he said that after all, I had no business knowing, and how he handles the situation with his older daughter is none of my business after all. So I better quit the tantrums and suck it up. I feel so guilty that I fought with him over it because he was just trying to be a good dad and didn't want to risk losing his daughter again in case I was not accepting of the situation. Am I the ass? My husband took our IVF treatment money and gave it to his friend. To start off, I want to say that my husband, 36 male, has an old friend, 33 male, that he's known since high school. They're inseparable and spend the entire week together. Like, they're really, really close. My husband and I struggled with fertility issues for years. We recently started a new method, IVF, in hopes to get at least one child together. Note that I saved for the majority of treatment while my husband only paid $2,000 to $3,000. We saved up for another round after the huge disappointment and heartbreak from failing the first time. This time, I'd put all the money, including Dad's inheritance, and my husband didn't pay a cent. Last week, I found out that he secretly pulled out $7,000. We had $11,000 in total. I was completely and utterly shocked. I confronted him, and he casually reminded me how many times his best friend complained about his old junk car, and he decided to lend him $7,000 to buy a decent car. His argument was that his friend would have done the same thing for him. I was beyond livid. I asked if he really thought that this was okay, and he said I shouldn't worry and guaranteed his friend will pay us back in time. I lost it on him and immediately demanded his friend to send the money back and threatened police involvement in case he refused. His friend immediately returned the money, but told my husband about the police thing, and my husband came home yelling at me, calling me unhinged and selfish. I told him I saved up some of this money, used my inheritance for this treatment, while he contributed nothing even though we're in this together. He corrected me saying I'm the one with the problem, and he thought it's only fair that I make up for it by paying for the IVF myself. This hurt so badly, I couldn't argue anymore. He went to stay with his friend while constantly shaming me for how I treated them both and for the police involvement like they stole something from me or something.
I, 43 female, have been dating B, 44 male, for 9 months. We've had some amazing times as well as some bumps in the road. He has 2 daughters, K 13 and L 11. I met them both 4 months ago and they're super awesome chicks. Funny, beautiful, and talented. Immediately, Elle and I clicked because I swear she's a younger version of me. On Mondays and Tuesdays, Elle would have her dad B drop her off and pick her up from play lessons, and I would ride along and the 3 of us would cut up, make terrible yo mama jokes, and overall have a blast. If and when I couldn't ride along, she would be upset and she didn't know if and when she would see me again since you've had a lot of terrible girlfriends and I really like Kay. Please don't screw this up. About a month ago, one of her play classes was canceled, so we had an hour to kill and all came back to my house. Elle loves horror movies and stories, so I introduced her to Mr. Ballin and we started watching one of my favorites while B went outside to smoke. I'm sitting on the couch and Ella has her back leaning up against my shoulder while she kicked out her feet in the other direction. I have a sister, several nieces and ton of gal pals, and nothing was abnormal or weird. Just typical chilling on the couch stuff. No, I didn't have my arm around her, nor was I even touching her. I have a 13-year-old son and this was normal, even for him. Well, B came in from smoking and immediately started giving me the evil eye. I was wondering what was wrong. never thinking he thought that there was something inappropriate going on between me and his 11-year-old daughter. Elle and I finished watching the episode, all while B would look at us like we were two teenagers. Shortly after the stink eye began, the episode ended and it was time to go. I pulled B aside and asked him what was wrong, and he said, "Oh, nothing," in a way like he just caught me cheating or something. After we dropped Elle off, who never knew there was now a rift between her dad and I broke down. I asked him straight out if he thought I would ever harm Elle or any child in any way. He explained it away that he was just an overprotective dad and that Elle is impressionable and wanted to protect her. I don't have daughters, only a son, so I told him that I was sorry, even though the whole accusation really broke my heart and nothing more was said. We continued to ride along to take her to her lessons and even went to her play last weekend. Flash forward to yesterday. We're at his folks' lake house for early Thanksgiving, 2 hours early, and it's a gorgeous day. Elle and Kay are restless and want to go on an adventure. I asked B to grab my walking shoes out of the car. I was wearing heels, and suggested that we all go on a walk in the wooded beach area by the water. B got my shoes, we all announced that we were going for a walk in the woods and took off. B didn't express interest when we asked him to come as he was chatting with his folks. Kay ended up wearing my heels and it was super funny watching her stumble around in the woods with them on. She actually hiked a good distance in them. Mind you, this is right next to the house, and since all the leaves have fallen, you can see the whole area where we are. It wasn't a day hike or anything. Kay tapped out after a bit though and turned back towards the house. Elle was way far ahead and alone, so I followed her and we ended up by the water. You can literally see us from the house, so it's like a short hike. And had a great time taking pictures, looking at cool rocks and moss, and overall having a kumbaya moment when we hear B call out. We both are excited he decided to join us. Seriously, we were only gone for 10 minutes at this point, when he yells at us from the cliff above for not answering him the first 2 times when he called out. We didn't hear him, and I told him that I was sorry, but he should come down and hang out with us. He simply turned around and walked away, leaving Elle and us alone and confused. I told her that we should head back up so I could sort this out, and we did immediately. I asked him what the hell, and he said he was scared he couldn't find us. I then asked why did he ignore us and walk away instead of joining us and having a beautiful moment. He said because I know how you are and I was upset you two were alone together, not answering me. This is when I asked him what he meant by saying I know how you are. Part 2. I'm breaking up with my boyfriend for thinking that I have an inappropriate relationship with his 11-year-old daughter. When I specifically asked what he meant by I know how you are, his only answer was that because I've had sex with other women. So here I am, devastated that for the second time in my life, I'm being accused of pretty much having pedo tendencies. Stuck 2 hours away from home at his parents' lake house on Thanksgiving Sunday. I told him that if he really thought that I would harm Elle or any other child, why the fuck didn't he just come join us? Why walk away? Why stay with someone who you think may harm your child? I told him that we would talk about it later and went inside and acted like it was all well. He even apologized and pawed at me for the rest of our time there, and I just put on a fake smile and went with it. I was heartbroken and in shock. Once we got back home last night, he kept trying to initiate sex and act like everything was fine, and I sat on the couch trying to find the words. I told him that it was over. I won't be with someone who thinks I would harm a child. I also won't be with someone that dates someone that they think would harm their child. I told him that there really wasn't anything left to talk about, and he went through all the stages of grief right before my eyes in about an hour. I just sat there in stunned silence. All the love I had for him went away the moment I realized he was accusing me for the second time. To be clear, no one in this story, including the girls, have ever been a victim of grooming, R-word or M-word. Not even I, nor B, nor anyone on either side of the family, so it's unclear, other than his alcohol consumption, where this is coming from. I let him stay the night and told him that he could get his things in the morning since it was late and he was drunk. This morning, he acted like everything was normal and asked if he could come back tonight, all while my skin was crawling and I couldn't wait for him to leave. I want to call B's mom as well as Elle's mom and explain why I won't be in their life anymore. We all got along really well, so cutting ties really sucks, but not sure if I should. How the fuck do you tell someone you've been implicated in having inappropriate contact with a member of their family? I plan on gathering his things and telling him that I never want to see him again. What should I do?
Am I the asshole for not letting my neighbor's kids play in my yard until they pay to fix the damage to my house? Disclaimer, this is not my story. My father bought the house in the 80s. I inherited it 3 years ago and have been living in it since. I have 2 acres while my surrounding neighbors maybe have 1.5 if they're lucky. The house is very small, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, so I have a very large front and backyard. I use maybe 1/5 of my backyard as a garden and the rest is basically an empty field. I've always loved kids, so I was happy to let my neighbor's kids play in the field with the understanding that they would respect my property. Most of the kids are great and very respectful and understand that it's not their backyard. The problem is with my neighbors to the right, they have 5 kids, 1 female, 3 male, 5 male, 5 female, and 7 male. Generally run around unsupervised. 7-year-old is in charge as much as a 7-year-old can be. 5 days ago, the kids were playing baseball and the 7-year-old must have lost track of the 5-year-olds at some point because when I came home from work, I found their names sharpied on my wall, along with some rude drawings all along the right side of my house. I found their parents the next day and asked them to pay for the paint that I'll need to cover it up. They were offended, accused me of lying, and said they weren't going to pay. Later that day, the 5-year-old male decided it would be funny to throw rocks at my house. There were several dents on the side and 2 of my windows were broken. It was $800 to $900 worth of damage. I talked to the parents again, who accused me of doing it myself to make their kids look bad. I decided to not let their kids use my yard until the damage is paid for. When they came by one morning to play with the other kids, I politely explained the situation and said they would have to leave as they